Oh God, beautiful. 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 At thy feet, oh, I do bow. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. Oh God, beautiful. Oh God, beautiful. Oh God, beautiful. Oh God, beautiful. In the forest thou art green. In the forest thou art green. In the mountain thou art high. In the mountain thou art high. In the river thou art restless. In the river thou art restless. In the ocean thou art great. In the ocean thou art great. O God, beautiful. O God, beautiful. Hello, friends. Once again, Nayaswami Hriman here, and I'm speaking to you from the Camano Island Hermitage on Camano Island in western Washington, overlooking the bay here called Port Susan. I don't know why it's called a port or why it's called Susan, but that's what we call it. And I have for you on this beautiful day, the sea is sort of a Mediterranean kind of a blue, kind of a metallic blue today, not quite the pale, soft pastel blue that it is sometimes, but the sky has lots of puffy clouds. So I cannot but help but celebrate in my heart the oncoming of spring. So for that reason, I've picked out this poem, first published by Yogananda in September of 1940. Wow, so this was a year after Hitler attacked Poland, so the war was definitely ramping up, but he called this poem The Magic Sea. Now remember that Yogananda had the beautiful hermitage there in Encinitas, California, and he too could look out over the sea. I don't see the ocean that one sees in Encinitas, the Pacific Ocean. I see but this very gentle bay. It is part of the ocean. Anyway, here's the poem. For you alone can make a sea with eyes of blue and measureless deep, with transparent heart all hidden with endless mystery, with flying fish perching on your silver hair of surf dancing, somber seagulls resting on your rich watery tresses, as the sun bestows its kisses and makes them shine, O goddess blue brine, intoxicating all votaries with your wine, your ever-blushing scenic face surging in all secret solace. Who could make this blue-eyed maiden but you alone? Ah, you! Man may make a myriad things that be a little while, but you alone can make a magic sea. I think for many people on this planet, of all variety and shapes, but certainly for all of those attracted to peace and harmony in general, and then distilling it further down the funnel of interests, those of us who meditate, those of us who seek to feel the divine presence within and without. I think for people like ourselves, nature holds a deep and mysterious fascination. You know, whether you go forest bathing, as I like to, in the surrounding forests here on the island or in western Washington, or whether you love to go out and see the deep blue sea, as I also do, but I'm not able to do as often. But I can at least see this bay, the Port Susan Bay, and or whether you like to gaze at the puffy clouds or dance in the rain or look at the majestic peaks. I know here in western Washington, it's like we're surrounded by the mini Himalayas, both to the west and to the east and so on. But in any case, how many of us truly and deeply love nature? Nature's animals and plants. It can be more micro and more personal, as in, let's say, having a pet or horse or a goat or something. In any case, nature, because of its egolessness, speaks to us of a connection, speaks to us of the harmony of life, the interrelatedness of life, the integration, wholeness, and so on, the cycles of life, the seasons and the days and the moon, changes of the moon, all these things bespeak to us of a wondrous cohesion. What I think is less obvious to the lovers of nature, although down through umpteen thousands of years, nonetheless, is the perception, or at least the desire to imagine and perceive that behind the serenity or even the power and destructiveness of nature, behind the forces of nature, lies something bigger than us all. I think even among my friends who are great yogis, we tend to view nature on its own merits. We don't really, consciously at least, make the effort to perceive God as St. Francis did, in all the beauties and, as I say, in the power, including destructive powers of nature. And so I would urge my friends, all of whom I know love nature, to step aside from the beauty that you perceive, as I do, overlooking the bay here, as I am right now, and to see, as Yoganandaji, master, as we call them, sees the magic sea, sees the magic and mystery in the sea. Let us try to do that as spring comes and the flowers start to blossom and come out of the earth once again. For how many years have some of us, at least, in these current bodies, seen the great mystery of resurrection and rebirth. That great mystery and theme will be coming up shortly, perhaps in our talks and in the different things we celebrate in spring. The Mahasamadhi of Swami Sri Yukteswar and Yogananda, and then of course the Mahasamadhi of Jesus Christ and Easter. This aligns itself with the magic, the mystery of spring's reappearance, our potential to be resurrected from the depths of grief, despair, illness, loss, and so forth. The phoenix rising, if you will. This is an important theme, and I may explore it in a few more other broadcasts. I have one planned in my mind, and I don't normally plan any of these, but I do have one planned on a poem I found recently on the subject of grief. So we'll come to that later. For now, it's the beauties of spring, and let us remind ourselves that those beauties are the beauties of Divine Mother and the power of Divine Mother. I think of Goddess Kali with the string of skulls around her neck and her lolling tongue of bloodlust and so on. But all of those powers are powers of spirit, and we partake in those powers. We partake in the harmony of friendship, which is to say the beauty of friendship. We can beautify our homes and our gardens as well, perhaps even ourselves. But also we have power, and that power can not destroy and hurt other people. I don't mean that, of course, but to destroy addictions, to destroy ignorance, to destroy prejudices. I've come to realize that we all have different kinds of prejudice. It can be generalized, and some people are racists, okay, but others are racists when it comes to the castes of plenitude, for example. We perhaps unconsciously admire people who have wealth. We look up to them as if they know more than we do. They may, but they may not. And we have prejudices against the people who stand at the street corners, perhaps, and begging for money. We think to ourselves, why don't they get a job, for heaven's sakes? Well, that's a good question. Why don't they? But maybe that's a difficult thing to get. If you don't have an address, a home, it's so interesting, the little things that prevent us from functioning. And so we all have these kinds of prejudices. And then there's the more subtle prejudices. Well, they're not subtle really at all, but maybe not as noticeable to others, which is our likes and dislikes as it relates to individuals. Been more keenly aware how, not that I wasn't before, but for some reason going through a phase where I'm more keenly aware that if I or someone or anyone doesn't like a person for whatever reason, good or no good, we view things they say, things they do through the filter of our prejudice. And that if you can catch that in its initial thought, you can make good on it. You can resurrect it into something at least neutral. Better yet, something more positive, and thinking something positive about that person, or thinking of the benefit of the doubt, for example, in respect to their motives and intentions in what they do or what they say. And so I don't know how it quite got there from springtime, but I'm sure it was natural. And looking behind things, in other words. And not that we become dumb and we just think everybody is wonderful. I mean, Yogananda did one time say, "Oh, I see you all as beautiful as light." And of course, that's a wonderful experience to have if it's an actual experience. But he wasn't necessarily addressing the other issue that, one could also look at different ones of us and see our foibles and our flaws. But it's the prejudice, it's the screen or the filter of the dislike and the consequences of that filter and dislike, let's say, that I'm talking about. So it's a very nuanced kind of thing. And even in nature, we say, well, I like forests, but I don't like deserts. We have the same kind of like and dislike with respect to things, which is why yoga is defined as the transcendence of our likes and dislikes, the state of yoga, that is to say, this state of equanimity is one who is free from that mental processing and so forth. And so let our filter then be, as it relates back to spring, let spring be a glass through which we perceive the Creator, the beneficent Spirit, the loving God, the loving consciousness. I was thinking that of this term self-realization, and there's the little self, and then there's the big self, and then there's the great self. The little self is our ego, although I don't need to define that for anybody. The big self is like that story Padma and I and others enjoy telling about Swami, who met the atheist in Australia, who asked him, "Hey mate, I'm an atheist, what do you have to say to me?" And Swamiji said, "Well, if you see God as the best you can be, as your own highest potential," I think were his more precise words, and he says, "That's okay by me, mate." And so that's a good starting place for all of us, God believers or not, which is be the best you can be, your most noble, dignified but also natural self, the one who sees the best in other people, the one who thinks of other people. Be the big self first. And from the big self, the refinement of consciousness that comes with that, it becomes much easier to feel the presence of the great self, the great spirit. Okay, that's plenty for today. I like to ramble a bit, don't I? Okay. Joy and blessings to all.